Welcome back to our YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to discuss those people who are chronically complaining of hamstring tightness. Okay, so if this is you, you feel like no matter what you do, no matter how much you stretch, your hamstrings are constantly in a state of tightness, this video is for you. So we're going to discuss why that may be, and also if maybe the problem is actually weakness and not true shortening of the muscle. Okay, so brief anatomy: the hamstrings attach right at the bottom of your pelvis on your ischial tuberosity. So it's sometimes referred to as your sit bone, so right at the bottom of that pelvis where you sit. And then they actually cross the knee joint and attach all the way to your tibia on your lower leg. Okay, so it goes from your hip all the way past your knee. So there's several different movements and posturings and all of that that can affect the tightness and strength of those hamstrings for that reason. So there's a lot of different reasons why a muscle may actually feel tight. One of them may be posture, okay? So if what you're doing all day long involves this posterior pelvic tilt, is what it's called, where your pelvis is actually tilted back, that's the posterior pelvic tilt, that can cause tightness and weakness in the hamstrings, right? So if you're a desk worker and you're constantly like this, if you sit and commute a really long time on sitting in your car all day long, that's going to cause issues as well. If you're the opposite and you stand and walk a lot and maybe you have this anterior pelvic tilt where your pelvis is not back but it's actually tipped forward, causing this increased lordosis, increased tightness here, some weakness in the front, that's going to be an issue as well. Okay, so how you are most of the day is going to affect how your hamstrings feel, okay? So a lot of my people that are coming in that have this chronic tightness are actually desk workers, right? They just sit all day long and then they maybe exercise for 1 hour a day. But one of my favorite things to tell them is 10 hours of sitting cannot be outdone with 1 hour of exercising. That's a hard truth to swallow, but it is true, okay? If you do actually have a shortened, tight muscle, then yes, stretching may be good, but in the case of the hamstrings, the muscle may actually be overly lengthened or unstable, aka weak, which in that case, then stretching it constantly is actually going to make the problem worse, okay? And so this is where a ton of people fall into this pattern of, well, my hamstrings feel tight, I'm gonna keep stretching them. That's actually making the problem worse, because the problem there for a lot of people is weakness, okay? So if you are in this constant state of, I don't know what to do, it's just constantly tight no matter how much I stretch, try some of these exercises that we're gonna go through and try like working on the strength of the hamstrings, and let me know if this helps, because I really have a strong feeling that it will. Okay, so I'm gonna go through with you guys some of my favorite progressions for working on hamstring strength. So we're gonna start really basic with some glute and hamstring work, and then work up a little bit more complicated to really isolating the hamstrings as much as possible, okay? So the first one that we're gonna go over is just a basic double leg banded bridge. And you can make this more hamstring focused by just moving your legs a little bit away from your bottom. So I'll show you what I mean. So it does help to have a band. The glutes come into play here quite a bit, because glute and hamstring weakness are usually synonymous. They kind of go hand in hand, because it's that posterior chain just not being used effectively and efficiently throughout the day. So if your hamstrings are weak, your glutes are probably weak as well. So you want to go ahead and work on both of those. And when you strengthen each of those things, most exercises get both of them together. So you might as well just kind of focus on both, right? So what you're going to do is put the band right around your knees. You're going to go ahead and get a little bit of tension on there. If you want to make this a little bit more hamstring focused, just walk your feet out just a little bit so that your heels are not all the way up against your butt. If you do them like this, that's going to be a little bit more glute focused. That's okay too if you like that. But again, if you want to make it a little bit more hamstring focused, walk your feet out just a little bit. Keep the tension on that band the whole time. So push out, hold it there, and then push up from here. And you should kind of think about pushing through your heels, and you'll feel that through your glutes and your hamstrings. So you want to really squeeze your butt and come up and all the way back down. So that's a really basic one to start with. From there, we're going to get a little bit more complicated. We're going to go into a single leg hamstring bridge, okay? So in order to make it a true hamstring bridge, you want to go ahead and elevate one of your legs, okay? So we're going to bring out this box here to help us. You're going to get back on the floor. So if I want to work my left hamstring, I'm going to have my left foot up on the box. Opposite leg is going to be up in the air. You're going to think about So you got maybe a 90-degree bend, maybe a little bit bigger than that. Keep everything relaxed up here, and you're gonna think about pushing through your heel up all the way and squeezing your butt at the top. So right there, you can feel that a ton, or I can feel that a ton in my hamstring right away. You can just go up and down from here. If this feels just a little bit too hard, but the bridge that I previously showed you was a little bit too easy, then you can actually do this double leg as well. And just by elevating the legs, that's gonna make this more hamstring focused. So for all of these, a good place to start is probably around 3 sets of 10. Just working on really squeezing those glutes and pushing through the heels to get that hamstrings activated, okay? So from there, I'm gonna show you another fun one for the hamstrings. So for this one, you can use one of these sliders if you have them. If you don't have them, you can actually just go ahead and use like a towel on a hard floor. So any kind of smooth, hard tile or wood floor should work fine for this. I'll show you with the slider. So what you're gonna do is get down into a tall kneel position, or a half kneel, I mean. Put your foot up on the slider. This is the leg that we're working here. What you're gonna do is bring this out, and then you're gonna try to go ahead and come out a little bit farther. So kind of start here, right? Straight, and then come out a little bit farther. And from there, almost try to keep your knee where it is, and then pull the heel back with this hamstring, okay? You should feel this quite a bit, like right in the middle of that hamstring. So again, straight, go all the way out, and then pull it in with keeping that knee nice and stable. So what you don't wanna do is just do this, right? That's not gonna get it at all, okay? So you gotta keep that knee right where it is and pull it in, okay? That one, I would probably maybe start with like 2 sets of 8, because that's gonna be pretty intense. It's a little bit harder than those bridge variations that I just showed you before. From there, we are gonna go ahead and go into some, or actually I'm gonna show you one more hamstring focused one, and then we'll do some RDL variations, which is something that I love doing with all of my patients. It's a really good functional movement that almost everybody should be doing, in my opinion. So before we get there, we're gonna do one more specific one for the hamstrings here. This is a fun one. You do need a foam roller for this one. This one is hard, I'm gonna warn you. So you're gonna get on your back again. This is called a foam roller walkout, okay? So from here, you're gonna go ahead and lift your butt up just a little bit. And you can do this with or without shoes. And then from here, you're gonna go ahead and just slowly walk your legs until they're all the way straight. So you're going all the way down until you're all the way like this. Butt is still up in the air just a little bit. And then you're slowly gonna pull this thing back in. So this works them quite a bit. For this one, I would maybe go all the way out, all the way in, maybe do sets of 5 like that, start there. Maybe do 2 to 3 sets like that. So again, you should feel your hamstrings the entire time. So as I'm walking out, they're on tension, working all the way to straight, and then slowly pulling them back in. All the way in. Keeping that butt up nice and high. Okay, so that's a really fun one too, to really challenge those hamstrings quite a bit. All right, so from there, we're gonna go into a traditional RDL. So this is super important because it's a functional movement. Anytime you pick something up off the floor or deadlift or do anything where it involves bending over, you're essentially doing an RDL or a Romanian deadlift, okay? So you can do this with or without weight. I would start with just a kettlebell, and then you can progress to a barbell, of course. Start with double leg, okay? So if you're not used to doing these, definitely start with double leg before you go to single leg. But again, it's just a basic RDL, so you're gonna get a little bit of a bend in your knee, keep your core nice and engaged, and you're gonna think about sending your hips straight back, as far back as you can, until you feel that tension in your hamstrings. You may not touch the ground, that's okay. And then you're gonna pull yourself up with your glutes and hamstrings. Okay, so this is just a regular double leg Romanian deadlift. So butt goes back, keep the butt up nice and high. Don't drop, don't turn it into a squat, because then you'll lose that hamstring isolation, which is what we're trying to go for here. We're just gonna go down and up, okay? So then from there, you would progress to that single leg version. So I like to hold the kettlebell on the opposite hand of the leg that I'm working, right? So if I'm working my left leg, I'm gonna hold the kettlebell on my right arm, slight bend in the knee just like before, core nice and tight. You're gonna stay in a straight line from your head all the way to your opposite heel, right? Everything's nice and in line until you feel that hamstring activation, and then squeeze back up with that glute and hamstring. So again, all the way down as far as you feel comfortable until you feel that hamstring tension, and then pull it all the way back up, okay? So if you can work up to the point where you're doing those single leg RDLs and feeling good about that, that is amazing. So hopefully between all of those variations, you can kind of try some of them and figure out where it feels like a good challenge, but it's not painful, okay? So if you have super tight hamstrings, some of those exercises may be challenging for you, okay? So start with those more basic bridge variations and just slowly try to work your way up. And again, you don't need to do all of them, just kind of pick maybe 2 or 3, try to do them a couple of times a week, and then see if you start to notice that that constant feeling of tightness is starting to ease up a little bit. If you guys have any specific questions about your specific situation, we would love to help you. You can comment below, you can call, text us. We are here for you. Please don't hesitate to reach out and let us know if you found this video helpful.